Thank you, Alistair, for the introduction, and Michael and Fred, Elizabeth, for the organization, and for you to be here. Who's a farmer? Hands up. Who's a gardener? Who's a consumer? Okay, thank you. Because all those aspects, of course, are important, because without food we can't live. So we need the connection between producers and consumers. So healthy ecosystems, and ecosystem is the whole landscape with all the connections for sustainable urban food provisioning. So how can we get good food in the city? And then the incredible system, like we start with our body, the intestinal system, incredible system that we eat and it decomposes things and it builds our body, it keeps our body strong and healthy and ticking, and we can talk and we can do everything. Incredible. And then we have the other incredible system, planet Earth, with all those interactive movements, all the forces that are working. And again, the smallest organisms on planet Earth, the bacteria, are the main composer of that game of planet Earth. Like 15,000 species in a healthy soil. And in our modern lives, we have killed both those systems, in our gut and in the soil. So we have to rebuild them. So how do we do that? Of course, we have to provide the soil food web, like all those creatures on planet Earth that help the growth of our production, the microbes in the soil, and then all the other crazy critters, and then up to the beetles and the birds. Everything is connected. And we have destroyed that with our modern farming and our gardening. Like all those spray cans that we can use in the garden as well, we kill more than is good for us. So we have to rebuild that system. Because now we end up with this landscape, like with dead trees from acidity, dust storms, water erosion, etc. Of course, I didn't have appropriate pictures from the Hawkesbury, but like in the middle bottom is one picture that could be there. Erosion problems, because as soon as we kill the biology in the soil, soil can wash away, soil can blow away. As we get the soil healthy, then the microbes tie all those soil particles together, and it can't blow away, can't wash away, and it produces healthy, strong plants. So why increasing problems with health? Well, we get too many chemicals in our system, and each chemical is regulated by our regulators and approved. But is that good? Because now we have millions of that stuff coming into our bodies, and we get all the chronic diseases. And it comes from, like on the left-hand side, all the spraying we do on our crops, the fertilization, all the synthetic fertilizers and chemicals that destroy the biology in the soils and make the food quality worse. And then we end up with the fast food system, that produce goes from the farm gate to the food factory, and we get fast food with less nutrition and less health, and we have to eat more and more of that to feel satisfied. So the synthetic chemicals affecting our health, so we have to avoid synthetic chemicals. I'm not saying that we have to stop using synthetic chemicals, not like organic, you're not allowed to use that. But that the beauty now is that if we reduce the amount and we raise the immune systems, then our bodies and the soils can use a little bit of chemical. But never too much, because then you kill the system again. So in our production system, to get the high yield, we use more and more fertilizers and more chemicals to get the same yield and for lower quality. And we destroy the soil. And then the food goes to the processing. So in the food and drinks, for ease of use. And we put preservatives in there, taste, looks, shelf life, all those issues. And you know all the E numbers on the packets in the shops that you can look at. And this is the dirty dozen in the red. And like the 100 numbers are the artificial colors. And we don't need artificial colors in our food. And then the body care, in lots of body care products, in the shampoos, in the soaps, all that stuff, we got chemicals in that system. And then in medicine, more chemicals. Each of those chemicals are approved one by our regulators. But what about the cocktail? Now our bodies get this cocktail of chemicals, and nobody can cope with it. Our chronic diseases are going up, and each generation is getting more problems with it. Our intestinal system can't metabolize, decompose the system anymore, and we get big problems. So we have to stop those cocktails, and how do we do that? By avoiding them. So we get the massive earth problems with big populations taking all the good soil away, like here's happening in Sydney Basin, and then all the landfills, taking trees away, taking forests away, and our planet Earth is burning. So now we get this statement from Professor Duncan Brown. Like humans in a complex ecosystem. For every action on a complex, interactive, dynamic system, there are unintended and unexpected consequences. In general, the unintended consequences are recognized later than those that are intended. So that's why we have all the problems in our landscape, all the problems with our health, because all those individual synthetic chemicals have been approved one by one, but now the cocktails we can't cope with. So better we have now to stop all those things. And what about sustainability? Like I used sustainability in the text, and like this forum has 2 words of sustainability in the title. Sustainability is taking a long-term view of how our actions affect future generations and making sure we don't deplete resources or cause pollution at rates faster than Earth is able to renew or recycle. So how is that happening? The cycle. Like this is the cycle of life. From birth to growth to death to decay, and those minerals that come free in the decay, those carbons that come free in the decay are used for the next cycle of life. That's the cycle. We have killed that cycle in our farming, in our gardens, in our life. Everything is linear, and we bring everything at the end of the line to the tip. We throw it away. And the sewerage goes to the ocean, all the minerals are washed to the ocean. So we have to bring back the cycles of life. So when we look at the landscape, and like to your garden, we need biodiversity. Biodiversity is very important. All the different species in the same space. And then woodland, wetlands, windbreaks, shelter belts, to stop all the impacts of the climate and to secure the water, to infiltrate water into the landscape. We use the Yeoman's key line system. And of course here we are close to Yeoman's property that's now subdivided as well, I believe. And then natural sequence farming. So we can use all those tools to manage our landscape in a profitable way. And once that landscape is functioning, then we do the management of the fields, the management of the paddocks, and the management of our garden with the biological principles. With low external inputs, we reduce the synthetic fertilizers, we reduce insecticides, fungicides, herbicides, because we want to get the soil living again. So then we go to local production. Local production is very important because of the oil crisis, of course, but that whole modern farming system, and like what you can do in your garden, if you go to Bunnings and you buy all those pots and spray cans, you go home, most of those products that you use on your garden can be made like with oil. And if oil goes down, the price goes up, things become more expensive, but in the end, we don't need that stuff. We can do without. Because all the oil products make the soil dead. And a dead soil, you need more of the stuff, more fertilizers to make a soil that's dead working. So if we make the natural soil fertility with the soil biology, we stimulate the soil biology, then we can do in our peri-urban area, we can grow the good food with less chemicals and less fertilizers and have very high quality. And then we reduce the food miles, so we don't need, because at the moment, like with 3 distribution centers on the East Coast, all the produce goes to those 3 centers, and from there it goes back to the shops. It's all a waste of energy, and we lose the freshness. The freshness is being maimed by that system, because we have big cool houses and freezers that keep the produce so-called fresh. But if you, for instance, in your garden, and I do that every day in my garden, nice biological system, you pick the greens an hour before the meal, and then you eat, and the taste is absolutely phenomenal. You then pick it, and you eat it a day later or 2 days later, the taste starts to become more sour from the same stuff. You lose, for every day after picking from a green leaf, you lose antioxidants every day. So we need the fresh green stuff, and our fresh food people don't have fresh stuff. And this will be on YouTube, so hello fresh food people. And seasonality is also very important. We have to eat with the seasons, because if we eat every day the same, like every day tomatoes, every day cucumbers, every day, yeah, what else can you eat every day? I don't know, because I eat seasonal. Then our bodies, our intestinal system starts to go down as well, because all the bugs in our body have to do the same job every day. Our body needs variation to remain active. So we have to eat with the seasons. And then the recycling. We have to stop wasting the minerals and the water. Like everything that goes through the sewerage system to the oceans, we have to recycle the minerals, and use grey water in our peri-urban zone. And all our food and garden waste has to be composted, and we use the grey water. And food waste, that's another, like 30 to 40% of the food that's being produced in our country is never eaten. It's wasted. So if we talk about food security, stop wasting food first. Get respect back for food. Don't go for the cheaper stuff. No, respect food and want to pay more and don't want to go on a second holiday or whatever, because food is more important, because our body needs that good food to remain healthy. And then our children will be healthy and our grandchildren will be healthy. So connection, consumer and producer is very important. And that's of course what happens when we get the production systems in the peri-urban zone. And then in the urban zone, it's very important. Now we have all those trees and parks that need to be maintained. Lots of people work in the parks. They water and they mow and they do all those things. All that effort, all those resources have to go to food production. Fruit trees, vegetables, all that effort. And then we as a community can eat from those and can be happy. And then we learn to recycle our waste into compost and make those areas where we grow food in the cities, the city gardens, make them fertile and keep them fertile. And the same with all the other issues with the grey water, etc., that we start to recycle in our community. And of course Chippendale here in Sydney has started with those issues as well. Because we go to the community gardens and the street gardens to make a whole street actively growing fruit trees, vegetables, rather than the wattles and the gum trees and all the birch tree and those issues. School gardens, very important to teach the kids at primary school right from the start on what good food is, where it comes from. If you have a seed and you plant that seed, wow, a seedling comes out, you give it water, you care for it, and then you can eat it. And you don't need the bloody fertilizer to do it. You have good compost. Wow, that's great. And of course we do that then through the farmers markets and the community supported agriculture, the box systems, etc., that start to produce that system already. And then sharing land. Sharing land is very important, that people have land but don't have time to produce fruit and vegetables. That people that don't have land can then come to those properties and start to grow the food and share in the production. And all these issues are driven by movements. Movements are very powerful, but at the moment all the movements are fragmented. So we get organics, Demeter, slow food, permaculture, community supported agriculture, city food gardens, land share, Sydney Food Fairness Alliance, all those different groups, but they get more and more people that start to listen. And at the moment it's like 10% of the people that are so-called the alternative people, and that 10% are the innovators and the early adopters that see the picture and that want to follow. But those movements have to grow better and bigger to be influencing the system.
Yeah, Maarten, 2 minutes.
Yeah, so we get the local solutions, and the local solutions are community driven. So we start in our own area, like in farming, we start with 3-4 neighbors learning the new way of biological farming from personal experience, and follow that path and visit each property every 3 months, go with 3-4 families to one property and discuss the issues and look at the planned results from the previous talks, etc. So community driven is very important. In the cities we can do like the street gardens, like Chippendale, the Myrtle Street. So it's very important to become a community again around the food issue, about growing plants for consumption. But it requires appropriate policy, and of course policy asks the science world what policy is good, and then education. And the science world is way off track for this new thinking. They're still in the old modes, like Julia was talking about in the first talk. So it's now the community driven. If we support those issues and we support the Sydney Fair Food Alliance, then they become more powerful and politicians start to listen to it. You approach your local members, your local council, and you put pressure on them to get to this good food. Because what I didn't say about that new farming, the biological farming, those farmers that do it have the same yield in normal years as their neighbor. And they have far better yields in years of drought and frost, etc. Because the living system produces the good food. And if you know how to do that, the input costs are very low, so you get more profitability from a smaller block of land. So all that has to connect with the wider community. So sustainable farming for sustainable city, save the Hawkesbury Valley, Thank you.